on any of the areas that are done there. I want to also do it like this. We have the issue of pay progression came out very strongly. The issue of integration, Anusha is up. Integration of services. So we have now established the human capital strategy, and one of the things, we haven't communicated this yet, one of the things that we want to do is to pilot the issue of business partnering model, so that we can start improving how we integrate human resources and how they function in the various departments. What we have noticed is that we can't talk about professionalization if we don't talk about the functionality and effectiveness of the HR units, because they are the ones that are supposed to analyze the business model for us, to tell us that these functions are not correctly grouped. They are supposed to be the one that say this business model is not good enough for the mandate of the department. They are the ones that are supposed to also guide us in terms of interpreting all these new changes that we are coming up with. So the issue of integration of the matters that are related to functionality of HR is quite critical. There's a big issue of notches and PMDS, and then I think, Renisha, I'm going to, because you are, in terms of age, I'm 27, by the way. In terms of age, you are the oldest. She will explain to us why were bonuses abolished, even though Treasury will be better placed to deal with that. I think another part, I don't know where Anusha is the issue of retention. So we are, the interventions that we're bringing in, especially with the human capital strategy, it looks at the whole value chain of human resource management. And one area, one pillar that we're coming strongly on is the issue of retention. We have also noted that there are many departments that have an incorrect service delivery model, and that has also impacted on their organizational structure. So it will lead to the frustrations that you have in terms of how you deal with approvals, how you deliver services, understanding why there are frustrations between functions, whether it's health and social development, social workers and nurses and so forth. So we need to correctly understand the service delivery models of departments, the mandates of the departments, and then correctly come up with the structures that we are dealing with. And then Anusha is still out, but the issue of a shared services model, and particularly the issue of the directives are quite critical. I think I will leave the political questions to politicians that are here. But we have to also understand that in terms of practices that may exist in the environment, when it comes to appointments, we cannot have any of us as officials functioning outside of the prescripts of the law. So if you are going to compromise yourself, my DG likes to say there's no administrative or mallegislation that talks about constitutional values and principles. The first one of those values and principles is professional ethics. Let's equip ourselves and see how we can manage that. I think I'll start. Should I start with you, DG, or we start from the other side? With yourself. Thank you, DG.
No, thanks, Facilitator. Fortunately, I pay everybody who is in this house to advise me, not to ask me questions. So I don't know. There are very high-level people that must be giving us solutions of what is it that we should do and what is it that we should not do. Some of the issues that they are talking about, I've got no clue. I always hear them about them from them. So that's basically how it works. But let me just deal with 1 or 2, 3 issues. I think the rest, I have colleagues here in the office of the Premier, in the, even amongst yourselves, some of you might want to take a shot on some of the questions that you have raised. I think the rest of other questions and the brief was for us to indicate what is our view relating to the Public Service Amendment Act or Bill and the Public Administration Management Amendment Management Bill, which are critical in terms of a lot of other issues that we were raising. A number of issues that you raised, which I record here, and I was asking Dr. Pera here whether our forums are functional, both the HR forums and the HRD forums on relating to a variety of issues, because a considerable number of issues that you are discussing must be ventilated there, including us, because the HR forums must generate ideas and they share those ideas with the forum of heads of departments for us to process them. And if there's a policy imperative that we need to develop, we then have to come up with that policy at that level, recommend to the Executive Council for adoption. So I understand that there are concerns relating to filling of positions. Of course, somebody who was very direct about this is Thaban Selemela, who highlighted that there should be a correlation between professionalization of the public service. It must be commensurate to available resources, because we need to ensure that we have got the right capacity to execute the responsibilities that we need to execute, but also we will have to ensure that the resources are there to support the bodies that will be. If we talk about posts for vets, that is a concern for me. If we're talking about posts for engineers and other related important critical positions that we need to deal with, people who are taking care of our animals in various resorts, and we are unable to fill those posts, statutory positions in our various departments, that worries us. And normally when we discuss the budget, we try to ensure that we assist those departments to prioritize resources for filling of at least critical and also statutory positions. That is, I think that is very critical in terms of the filling of such positions. We are trying to work hard now with the forum we have created to deal with technology. They call it PG Talk, to bring transversal processes relating to information and communication technology. We seem not to be succeeding because, and somebody raised the role that the SITA plays, Minister, and I think we should be engaging further with SITA because we are unable to bring uniform and standard information and communication technology processes in government, because some of these issues we have to rely heavily on SITA. And I think it's one area that we will have to see how best we can deal with. I think a number of issues, colleagues, with that. The HOD, and maybe I've seen they had a caucus with the MEC there relating to nurses, professional nurses that find themselves in a social development environment to deal with that. The FSTD and Dr. Pera, they are dealing with this thing of what one colleague was saying, we seem to be so bad in managing that process, such that we are even decampaigning the ruling party, secular 49, I don't know how, but they are working on that process. Maybe Dr. Pera or Di Magazo, you can have a mic to talk specifically on that, because it is important for us to explain those processes. The back and forth, I don't even know about them. I only see a document that is finalized with Treasury recommendation on availability of funds. Then I sign it off for Premier's signature for PESAL to be open. So you can understand that my role is very insignificant in that process. Therefore, I am unable to explain fully in as far as that is concerned. I think shared services model, we agree, given the constraints of resources, we might have to start looking at issues of shared services. We are already trying and looking at a model, and we are benchmarking through recommendations of PG Talk on shared services on ICT to try to see how far we can go with that going forward. So, facilitator, I don't think I should attempt to go deeper into what the colleagues have raised. We have had. Some of them are for our own consumption at home. Some of them belong into their own terrain in various forums that they will have to look at. I think one matter that colleague raised now is around, and I've seen that we are saying this issue of doing business with government must be clarified. I've seen it in the amendment now, or the amended public service bill. It must actually be fully accentuated. We should know precisely what it means, because if I want really to buy something from Mangaung, a house, a land from the municipality, that's in my personal capacity. I'm no more a public servant, and nobody can say I can't buy a house. If Public Works sells land and I want to buy land or a plot, I'm doing that in my personal capacity as an employee. But I see that we have a DPSA opinion on that in terms of whether that's doing business with government. When I thought it has to do with trade and so on, and selling goods and services between government and public servant, which is a different story altogether. So, Dr. Pera, you want to come quickly, deal with this thing, or Di Magazo, between the two of you, that process, so that, and colleagues must understand we have had all other issues that you have raised, and then HOD Patlo can quickly also deal with some of these issues. The rest of the issues, I think most of them were directed to the DPSA, who are our regulators. We do what they instruct us to do, nothing more, nothing less. We can't be creative on directives.
Now, thank you, DG. And DG will remember that I will be leaving now, and you'll continue emceeing as I leave. Colleagues, Circular 49 it shouldn't be controversial, but it is in our situation. But I think what we dealing with sometimes is not understanding that stood it as if it was relaxing measures a bit, that you can take things through the technical committee system that we have without actually doing those checks, without checking whether the post is on the structure, without checking whether the post is funded. And what we've been doing is that now department, go back, this structure that you are using is not approved or even concurred, because sometimes you have a situation where the MEC has approved the structure, but the structure has not been concurred by the minister, because it must be concurred by the minister. That is one problem. The other problem that we have is that of unfunded vacancies. You see, the other mistake is to confuse issues of Regulation 57 with Circular 49. Because Regulation 57 is very clear. You will not extend additional to the establishment appointment. But you have a situation where departments try to extend appointments or appoint people anew, and they take the route of Circular 49. Now that is also creating some misunderstandings, and we are clear. Regulation 57 appointments are not regulated in terms of the circular. They are sui generis. If I use my legal training, they are sui generis. They are regulated in terms of that regulation, and they are not impacted upon by the directive. So it's just a question of understanding this process, but at least the departments are understanding. We have had departments that advertised posts successfully. Department of Community Safety, Roads and Transport is one of those, successfully after following this process of the circular. So now it's extended. I was hoping that it will not be extended. I was hoping it will die on the 31st March. It's extended. It's with us for another year. So you will feel my power for another year. So, thank you.
Okay, and I hand over back to the facilitator. Okay, wow.
Minister and colleagues, good afternoon. Colleagues, it's getting a little bit hot in here now. Minister, when we boarded the flight this morning and came to Pretoria, it was bitterly cold. But now I'm finding it extremely hot. Minister, I must thank the colleagues for the very robust discussions, deliberations, and discourse towards the latter part of the morning, and now as we start the afternoon. Minister would have observed that whenever we have the socialization programs, Minister, they always send me first to answer the questions, colleagues. I'm the doctor and they are practicing doctors. Colleagues, Candy Crush. Did you hear of Candy Crush? Computer games. Many public servants in many departments are not always gainfully employed. That's a struggle, that's a challenge. And when you pass the computers, they are wizards in Candy Crush. Minister, South Africa is taking the award in Candy Crush. We must, colleagues, we must embrace the new world of work. We must embrace the new world of work. So the question from my HR&D perspective would be, how are we managing the surplus and the shortage of personnel? And can we confirm as managers, senior managers and leaders that indeed, every public servant is gainfully employed? Then we would find out, Minister, it's never about the quantity, it's always about the quality. Colleagues, we must define sometimes, Minister, the words that we use, colleagues. Comrade simply means you and I together in this. So as HR&D colleagues, we can also use the word comrade. When we talk about cadre deployment is not only political deployment. Cadre deployment can simply be that in your experience and in your ranks of work, there were certain individuals who had competencies and could do the work. And sometimes we tend to politicize it. And in HR&D, we must be a little bit watchful about it. So what I can confirm with you, colleagues, is that the Public Service Act and its regulations are for the public service and not external bodies. So in other words, what external bodies do is beyond the control of the Public Service Act and her regulations as statutory provisions and the law that governs HR&D in the public service. But we must thank